What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. For any returning viewers, we're glad to have you back. If you're new, welcome. Spy Pie Gaming makes content highlighting games, industry news, events in the gaming community, and much more. I'm guessing you're here because that interests you, because otherwise I don't know why you would be. Um, so if you haven't, or you're new, go ahead and click subscribe, and don't forget to turn on notifications. That way you know as soon as new content drops. Right now, we release content on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Anyway, so for today's video, we're going to be doing a little bit of talking with, or talking about the Elder Scrolls franchise, and a couple of games in particular, but um, in general too. So we're going to start out with this. It's this is Jack, by the way, and I got Spy sitting here with me. Um, which particular game brought you into the franchise?
So the first game that really piqued my interest, I think, it was when I was a kid. I was playing Oblivion. It was the fourth game in the series. I think the best thing about Oblivion that got me in, that really picked my interest and really got me involved was the fantasy world that it evolved around, and just the general like atmosphere. It was such a like beautiful architecturally, like everything looked very beautiful and imperial. Uh, but at the same time, there was always these things going on right below your feet, kind of feeling, and it really got that kick for me. And I think that was really what started the whole kick for it all. I mean, I played Oblivion, and then I went back and played Morrowind, and then I went and played Skyrim, and it's just all these games that and I even played Daggerfall. So Oblivion really piqued my interest the most and got me started into the franchise. Got me thinking a whole lot about the lore and where things started, and I think that's what got me was I wanted to know where things came from. Oblivion explained a lot, but it didn't go all that depth because you can't go all that depth in an old game, especially. And I think that was what got it. Was I wanted to know more of where these people came from, like Mannimarco and Mankart Cameron, and who these Daedric princes were.
I can see that. I personally was brought in with just kind of happened across Morrowind really in a game store, in the used game section. You did some talking about in general what you enjoyed overall, really more so about what the franchise at the time. Um, sorry, excuse me. Um, what the franchise at the time, like why it was interesting and stuff overall as a story. Anything in particular about Oblivion specifically that you enjoyed? The game, that particular game itself, gameplay, or did you enjoy that particular part of the story better? Because I know each installment is sort of set up in an area, like Morrowind is set up in Morrowind. Skyrim obviously the same. ESO is really, it's kind of unique, I guess, to the Elder Scrolls in the fact that it's, you go to whatever area, whatever territory, and you can visit all of the different territories in ESO, but each non-online installment of the series is kind of set in one particular area.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess the question is this: is there anything about Oblivion specifically that was interesting that you enjoyed, aside from the overall general points? I guess of because I agree with that. That's it pulled me in too with Morrowind, like the storyline and stuff like that. There are particular things though that are, I guess, specific to Morrowind and very much so now, specific to Morrowind that caught my interest and made me want to play the other game. You know, they weren't obviously out yet, but would have caught my interest and made me make me want to play the other games in the series. You know, had I been aware of them.
Well, Jack, I would definitely say that the main thing that got me with Oblivion specifically, I think, would be the storylines of the guilds. You know, they were very centralized on their own. They were on their own more. They didn't necessarily involve themselves heavily in the plot. And I think that was a very interesting take. You know, I mean, you're there to save the world, you know, with Martin Septim and everyone else, but I think it doesn't really matter who's saving the world as long as it's someone who's capable, you know, and that's what it came down to. And I think that was the main draw, you know, the Dark Brotherhood, every quest line in it, every quest in it I can remember almost off the back of my hand. And I think that's something that you just don't see as much in the modern installments, because I can remember very much like when Lucien Lehance came to me the first time in my sleep. It was a very big moment for me, like because I was a kid, you know, at the time, and you know you killed some guy in a city and then you just go to bed, you know, you go to an inn or whatever, and then oh no, you know, there's some guy popping up. He's looking at you like you're meat almost, you know. Has dead eyes to him, and he just doesn't care about who you are necessarily, but he sees that you have potential. And he's just like, you know, take this blade and go and kill some guy, and you're like, am I really going to get involved with all these people? You know, it makes you question it, like, how far do I want to go into the rabbit hole, you know? And then if you do it, you feel that, like, this dark presence over top of you for the rest of the experience. Like, you're just in it. You're in the whole world of their organization, how they operate. You have their rules, their tenets, their systems, and how they work. You know, they're all interlaced, and like you feel like you're bigger than yourself. As soon as you walk into the first day you walk through the black door, it really just gets you going. You know, you feel part of this organization. And the Mages Guild was another one. I think that really drove me in. You know, because not only did it required some magical expertise on the part of the player, but it also required that you be able to think as a mage would, as a scholar would, as someone who is in that world. You have to think like them. That was great for roleplay, especially, you know, if you're playing as a mage character and you wanted to think it through and who you are as a character. You know, you had to think like that character would. And then, you know, those drove me in like really hard. I fell in love with them so much so that when I first did the main quest, I mean, hell, it took me forever to get to them. Like, I never really cared about the main quest as much because I was off going around killing guys in Bruma for the Dark Brotherhood and then going off to Shaden Hall to steal some item, and then all the way back, and I'm sitting in this alien ruin trying to cast magic on this pillar that doesn't open unless you do the right combination. It felt like this adventure of a person, not as much as a gameplay mechanic to facilitate things. It felt like it was a world that was opening up if you just did the right combination. And I think that was a fantastic grabber, you know, and the Fighters Guild and the Mages Guild are up front. They're straight up and center with you, you know. You got to be magical or you got to be honorable. Because I remember when you had too much infamy, you couldn't even join the Fighters Guild. You had to show some prowess and magic by completing all the recommendations from every single guild hall in the game. Like, every city had their own guild hall. You had to go to them and talk to them and do what they needed. And some of the tasks were easy. They didn't require magical expertise on the part of the player, but some of them, if you just took a little bit longer to talk to someone or figure out where you needed to go, you could really, really make it easier for yourself. And it was a beautiful combination of player mind and character skill.
I like that. I can agree with that answer. You know, I made the comment that I started with Morrowind, and it was just there was so much about the game that was unique to that gameplay experience. So I can say that I definitely understand where that answer comes from. It's they're those those games in the series overall definitely have their own 2 feet and they stand on them very very well. It's albeit every pretty much every game that I've ever come in contact with has something that's just it feels like when you encounter it, it feels broken about it, but it's they had enough individuality and unique experience to that particular game, and a lot of stuff that you hadn't seen in any other games.
Oh yeah.
Morrowind with the crazy stuff, like the amount of freedom you had, like you could kill anyone in the game and ruin the rest of the game, like if you messed up and killed the wrong person. So you were like, you had to be like, when you figured this out, you had to be conscious of saving the game frequently enough, because like if you killed the wrong person, now you can't do the main storyline and all this mess. So I definitely understand where that's coming from.
Yeah, Jack, I really agree with the whole Morrowind concept. It was a weird game. It revolved around your character more than you at all. You couldn't hit anyone if you weren't skilled enough, and I mean, it really came this. It really became this whole weird situation where the world the world got easier as you lived in it. But I definitely think there are ways to make the world easy from day one. You had these bugs, and it felt like bugs. I can't tell if they were or not, though, because Bethesda game design is kind of bugs or features of the same thing. But I remember, the amount of times I've chained together making alchemy potions. Like, you chain together this whole thing. And this is controversial a little bit in the community, as if it is a bug or a feature. So many people are like, some people think it's not, intended. I mean, I'm going to say this, even if it's not intended, it's damn fun. Because what you do is you just, make a fortify intelligence potion. Alchemy scales off intelligence. So then you make better potions that make better intelligence. And then you end up with this, potion that gives you, 38,000 intelligence, and you drink it, and it lasts for fucking 4 days in your life. You could go around playing the game and never have it go off, it almost feels like. And it was honestly chaotic. It was chaotic as crazy. The game asked you, how far are you willing to break it? And if you're willing to break it, are you okay with living with the consequences? Killing the Mages Guild off in the first 10 levels is possible if you had prepared and were willing to do it. I mean, my Telvanni character was level 12, and I kind of cheesed the Archmage killing. I paralyzed him with a Jinx blade that I got from Telvanni, and then I just killed him. Took the Necromancer's Amulet way too early. But that meant that Mage's Guild's off limits to me. I can't finish that quest line. I can never become Archmage, but to that character, he never wanted to be Archmage. He just wanted to be powerful, and he did it. And he showed himself up. You pop into the... It's funny, because they give me a teleport to go to Vivec. You go to the Mages Guild in Valmora, and they're like, do you want to teleport to Vivec? And you're like, yeah, sure. And then you teleport right there in front of you is the Archmage standing there. So they gave me the facilitation of travel to kill their leader. And I think that's so fucking hilarious, because I didn't even care enough to go there myself. I was going to use their services against them. And it's this weird blend of it's a beautiful game design wrapped into a system that just doesn't care a lot of the times. It's brutal. In the main quest line, if you want, kill off Cassius Casades 4 minutes in and forget what you were doing. It doesn't matter. It's your story. I think that's a beautiful combination of your story and the character coming to life in a world that is honestly quite brutal in lore, and it's brutal in the game. You want Daedric armor, you better go on the hunt, buddy. You want Dwarven armor, better jump into a Dwarven ruin. It's it's a simplicity design that worked just perfectly.
It most definitely did not care. Like yeah. I back that statement up. I killed off. I forget the NPC's name now. It's been so many years since I played it, but my second playthrough, I forget if I was going from like a mage to a warrior or a warrior to a mage style, gameplay. But my second playthrough, I messed up and killed some. Like, didn't realize I could even do it, honestly, because it's your second playthrough. You don't know everything about the game yet.
No, but it'll let you do it. It'll let you make that mistake.
Yeah, absolutely, it does. And so if you're actually like trying to play the game, that's why I brought up you have to be save conscious, because if like on that character, the game is now broken. Like if you do something like that, it's even like it didn't matter side quest, main quest, you would shut yourself out from part of the game.
And you could even loot the gear off the people. Like if they had a quest reward for you, you could kill them and take the quest reward. I mean, you're rewarding yourself for killing off a main quest. It's honestly funny because the boots of blinding speed. You could just walk up to the person who was wearing them, take them, and not ever do what she wanted you to do. It was just that choice to just say "fuck you." I'm taking what I want. It's my shit.
Yeah, it was definitely a fun experience, and it was unparalleled. And anybody that's played the game, like we're not saying anything that you don't know, but it was an unparalleled experience, like from any other role playing game that you've ever played. You've never been handed that much freedom, in another game, and you had to find a good way to like balance out. I can do this, but what happens if I do this? Does the game end for me effectively, right?
It wasn't always so clear either. You could end up killing someone and you just didn't know that they were important 4 or 5 quests later in a whole different thing. Like a whole city might come ask you to talk to a guy you murdered 4 years ago almost in game time, and you're just like, huh? Who's that guy? And you go into his house and you're like, this place seems familiar. Oh, he's dead. You're like, oh crap, I really just butchered the hell out of my game.
Yeah, definitely. So I think all this talk about the two predecessors to it. There's a lot of, I guess, been. When did they reveal it? 2018 maybe. At E3, the Elder Scrolls 6 was revealed, and I guess all this waiting and everything is bringing it back up and as a conversation topic. And I've recently been seeing a lot of. It's probably not in mainstream. It's probably not controversy, but it's controversial to me because I feel like I started with earlier installments, and from the sound of it, you did. What do you think about this whole opinion that Skyrim is the superior game in the franchise? Really, like I fundamentally disagree with that because of a lot of what's been lost through the franchise between where I started in it at Morrowind, and even from Oblivion to Skyrim, there was a lot of, hey, this doesn't work, and it almost feels like instead of trying to fix what makes it not work, they were just like, we're taking this functionality out of the game. Like Morrowind had ridiculous spells that you could cast, like levitate, for example.
Oh yeah. Levitation was a very, very broken ability. However, it added this weird facilitation of like gameplay, because not only could you now traverse the land in such a weird way that like a warrior can't, And I sent you a text a while ago about like that alone. The movement in the games are different. Like it's so fundamental of a change that even the movement and the way you travel is different. See, in Oblivion, it was a plains area, and you didn't need to, really do too much to move like from place to place. You just ran. there, or you horse gallop there. But in Morrowind, it was so strange because you could levitate and you could fly above the landscape, and this landscape was very, very dangerous. I mean, enemies down below, I mean, hell, they look terrifying today. I imagine they weren't exactly comforting back in the day. And not only that, but the whole world was a scary place at times, and you had to be aware of it. I think, you're talking about Skyrim and how people think it's a more superior game, and I think it's superior in one aspect, and one aspect really alone, and that is the ease of functionality. Like, everything's easier to an extent to where you can understand it without really having to do much. You see a quest, it has a marker, you go to the marker, do the thing, leave. I think that was what the entire game design was about. Oblivion had markers too, quest markers, where they would show on the map, here's where to go. And I think that really took away from a lot of it. Morrowind had you exploring, Skyrim or Oblivion had you, even though it showed you where to go, you still had to find your way at least. And in Skyrim, it's like it's right there in front of you. Like, you didn't have to look at the map to see the marker. It was on the game. Like, the game had a physical thing representing inside the universe, showing you where to go. And that really just didn't feel good. And it's a systemic change, I think, that shows a lack of people who want to, when people want to have a game that has choices in it, sometimes the choice you'll make is the wrong one. And I think that is an inherent game value, is that sometimes you can make the wrong choice. You can fuck up your entire save day one in Morrowind. In Oblivion, yeah, NPCs started getting flagged as essential and stuff like that, so you couldn't kill them like entirely, or they'd go on one knee or fall down and get back up. But it did still feel like you had some control in the game. Your actions mattered. In Skyrim, it doesn't as much. You're killing Alduin, but everyone still treats you like you're a child. The guards will still say, "Oh, stop that fancy magic," and you're like, "Bro, I just came back from saving the world. Like, Alduin is called the World Eater for a reason, buddy, and fancy magic might have actually been the only way I could have done it." And it really just was disappointing, from a game design. I think the thing that made it really not click for me was it really felt like a streamlined experience. It felt like something that you were meant to play through once and explore the entire game and do everything and never ever have to play again. You could become the leader of the Dawn Guard and kill Miraak and kill Alduin, save the world twice in the same storyline, in the same world. And then not only did you save it twice, but then you saved it from a vampire crisis in the Dawn Guard, and you're also Archmage, and also leader of the Companions, and a Dark Brotherhood assassin who killed the Emperor. And it's like, at a certain point, I think choice does lock you in a way. It should, at least, and that's what I think. Choice to kill off the Mages Guild in Oblivion, like I said, is a hard choice to make. If you want to make it, you can, but I think it might not be a good option. It's not a good ending, I'll tell you that, and that's very truthful. It's not a good ending to what is honestly a very beautiful quest line, but it's my choice. And the fact that I can't walk into the Companions and stab Kodlak in the chest feels like a little bit of a mishap. I get that game design, is never going to be straight up. You can't have a one-to-one translation from idea to game. But, dual wielding in Skyrim is the first time dual wielding ever existed in the franchise. And yet, at the same time, as we have that, something so awesome as wielding two daggers, or a spell in one hand and a sword in the other, like, you feel badass, but the quests you're doing aren't meaningful in any regard. They don't feel that way. Delphine is honestly just forced upon you early on. the Greybeards, the Dragonborn prophecy. It's all high fantasy in a way where you feel as if you're the only one who can save everyone, but no one cares. And it's like, what? You know, like, how am I supposed to go on and believing that? How am I supposed to feel like I want to save the world when no one cares if I do or don't? You know, and Delphine asks you at the end, spoiler alert, to kill Parthenax, who is the dragon of, you know, who watches over the Greybeards, and he's the leader. And that feels weird that you're a bodyguard. You're people who are meant to only do what you really want because they're the Blades. They are meant to protect you and do what you need, and they're telling you what to do. They're not asking you, they're telling you. They are directly giving you, the man who saved the world, an order. And it's like, you know, I'm a Khajiit furball guy who just sprinted across time and space to kill off Alduin, and you're going to tell me what to do? I'm the Dragonborn. I think I should be able to make this decision on my own. It really felt like a rushed game as well. Not that it was rushed in the game design, you know, but I feel like when you start the main quest, there is never a point when you can jump off. See, in Oblivion, Martin Septim gives you many quests that have you going out into the world. And in those moments, you do feel a sense of freedom in the main quest of where you can go anywhere at the time. We are preparing for war. It's going to take time. And we don't have much time, but we need to make best resources of our time. And Morrowind, I mean, when you meet Cassius, what's the first thing he says to you? He says, go off, explore the world, join a few guilds, build up a reputation, you know, stuff like that. It's almost like you have a reason. You have a reason to be there. And in Skyrim, you don't. You have a reason to do the quest. And I think the difference between a quest and an adventure is very evident. And I think that's a big issue, because I think there should be a difference. You know, this is a character. This is a person you've made. And that's another thing I think we should go into for a second here, is that, you know, in the Oblivion guide, you know, I talked about how every race has its own fundamental ups and downs. But it's not like that in Skyrim. Any character can become anything. And while that opens up an opportunity for a lot of weird builds, I think it shows a lot of lack of belief in their characters. There is no reason that an orc and a wood elf should be the same. They're fundamentally different characters. They're fundamentally different races. I mean, one's got gnarly teeth and stands 6'5", and then a Bosmer might only be 5 foot tall, and he shoots, you know, arrows. He shoots arrows, and he goes around and he tries to sneak and stuff like that. And it's like, why do these characters both start with 100 health, 100 fatigue or stamina, and 100 magicka? Why do they all start the same? Why is, okay, and then you're like, okay, well, at least they get some bonuses to certain skills. Well, they're not big bonuses. They're 5 points here and there, maybe. I think a few of them might have 10 points in a few things. Like, you know, blacksmithing, I think. Orcs have an up in that to 10, and it's not enough. I think there's not enough diversity in the race and the class that you pick at the beginning, because that's what you want to be. And I think, you know, you can make a case that the best thing about Skyrim is the fact that you can change your build around it and you can adapt during the middle of the game. But I think that is the reason that you only play one time. If you want to be a Telvanni, you better be one. You better become one, you know, embody it. And by doing that, you're going to make enemies. I mean, you lock yourself out of the other two houses of the three. You know, you can't become a Redoran and also a Telvanni. And the Mages Guild definitely do not like the Telvanni. So being one will definitely put your relationship with one in the Mages Guild, it'll put it down. And I think that shows that the game was well assured that you would play multiple times, not because you were forced to play the story, but because you wanted to see where you could have been otherwise. It's a very strange, different concept in today's games where you can do anything. Sometimes your character is not powerful enough to become Archmage. I think you should accept that and go ahead and continue down your path and learn from it. It's a bit of a weird concept, I know, but D&D's been doing this for however fucking long.
Yeah, I can't. I'll make the argument it's not even just newer games. Older games are like that. And I'm not taking anything away from them. Like, I very much so and remember very well, you know, the how enjoyable the experience was playing earlier RPGs like Chrono Trigger, Breath of Fire games, early Final Fantasy games. You know, that's kind of its own, I guess, basket of things to talk about, Final Fantasy. But it most definitely seems like a reversion back. Um, it's like taking, hey, we took this one big step forward, and you know, when it first happened, like, so you know, you sound like you're definitely aware of, you know, how like it almost, like, buggy is a good way to put it. It almost seemed buggy. Um, I don't know that applies necessarily to what it is I want to say, but like the amount of freedom that you had in Morrowind to make literally whatever choice you wanted during the gameplay was just, it was ridiculous. And I think that Oblivion sort of addressed that in that they did take some of it away from you, because like realistically, like, there's a game to be played, and that's a concept, I guess, that's been, you know, one continuum idea throughout, like, video games, which, and it makes sense, right? Like you said, you know, at some point the choice to do something may not be, like, just because you can, it may not be the best choice, and it probably doesn't mean you should do it. You know, I talked a little bit about the experience I had, like, literally breaking the main quest line. I wasn't that far in, so I wasn't aware that I needed to be saving that often, but I was close enough to my previous save that it didn't bother me to just, like, load it. And honestly, I might have done it even if I did have a big, you know, distance between that save and where I was at when it happened, because it destroyed the rest of the main quest line, right? You can't play through the game. So,
and you know, that's a case, I think, with even levitation was a big thing we talked about not even that long ago before we started this, is that they removed it in Oblivion, and you know, that's a game choice. And I think that you can make a case for why Oblivion doesn't have levitation, because some of the areas are enclosed, whereas the cities in Morrowind are not. You can walk straight in and walk straight back out, and there's no loading screen. But in Oblivion, they had to put loading screens in because the cities were much larger, much more densely populated than a lot of the other areas. So it made sense for, you know, levitation to be gone. But I do think that, I think almost, you know, I think it would have been disappointing if they put a skybox that was really low above the Imperial City. But I do think that it would have been it would have been a better fix than removing it entirely, I think. You know, you may have been able to break things with levitation, but it definitely added a weird feeling to your character. It added a sense of freedom, and not only a liberation from, like, the what you were before. Because, see, levitation was expensive, and now, I mean, you could cast it quite early if you really wanted to in Morrowind, but it was an expensive investment. And I think that is, like, you know, you put the investment forward, you took the detriments of your character, and you were rewarded with something that was wholly unique to the mage archetype, almost. I mean, yeah, you could find potions, but how many people want to carry around a fuck ton of potions just so they can move up and top to the, you know, get some treasure or something? it's unlikely that you're going to carry enough with you in and out. And I think that right there shows that, the removing of spells really fucked with me. When you realize that your Warhammer and your bows in Skyrim do more damage than your spells, you start to wonder what's the reason of playing a mage other than the flavor, the text on it. I'm shooting fireballs. Is it any really more important that you're shooting a fireball than a bow? Not when it comes to numbers. And I think that's a disappointing feature that I think they should have added more. They should have added old design even.
Yeah, at one point, this particular game type wasn't built around a single character, and even if the main storyline really was around a single character, like
You had alternate.
yeah, you had a party, you had to manage. All right, this particular, this my main hero character or whatever, however you'd like to phrase that. They're a knight or whatever it is they are. Usually a knight more often than not.
Some kind of warrior.
Yeah, you had your warrior style gameplay that you were going to experience with that particular character, and that was fine. That made combat one way for him or her, and but you had your for lack of a better word, support characters, which could often turn out, Final Fantasy X, Luna, far more powerful than my other characters. But it's, I put what you were talking about, the investment into her. Um, you had to manage. I can't be everything, or this one person, this one particular character can't be everything. You had to manage that aspect of the game, and it takes, I don't know, it's just not. You can't have one person that's everything. You just can't. It's not real, and that's one of the things that video games have been trying to reach out and grab, since early on in them.
I mean, why is your paladin an assassin? Why does your mage become a fighter? Like, what is the real reason behind it? I mean, I can see why you may be both if you're a battle mage or something, but why does it make sense that the skills translate almost perfectly? Why can a barbarian walk into the mage's college in Skyrim and become archmage? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yes, I definitely think we're in agreement on this particular topic. Look, Skyrim is probably, it's probably a good game in its own right to a lot of people. I don't I don't see it being the superior of the installments in that franchise. There were just it was groundbreaking. The earlier games, the features that were in the earlier games are groundbreaking, and I think Skyrim. I definitely get this from what you've said. It seems like Skyrim stripped away a lot of that, and I don't know if it's me. I don't know if it's a particular type of gamer in particular, but when you come across something like after playing the earlier installments, I'm like, all right, so this is what the Elder Scrolls is about. It's about something different, right?
Yeah, it's not always about the features or how many of features in. If we want to talk about systems, Daggerfall has the most. Does that make it superior? Well, no. It's the feeling of the world around you that also envelops a character. You have to feel like you are something in the world. And if you can't say to me that I am a mage, I am a warrior, well, I don't know what's going on there. It takes away from who you are when you can be everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that ESO gives you a lot of liberty, and I feel like that's sort of a different thing because it's a MMO.
Oh yeah.
Um, they still have the party aspect and your tanking or damage dealer or whatever, but um, So it's, I think in that regard, it's sort of different. But you don't have anybody, you don't have the crowd like chanting, ESO is the best. I think everybody, for the most part, pretty well understands. Hey, look, it's part of the series. It's a different. We're not putting this in the same class as the other games because it's a different thing, right?
Well, it's a whole different game type. MMOs have to not only be accessible to the people who want an RPG, but the people who are also down to just sit inside a city and craft all day. It's a different experience. I think it has its own merits as an MMO, but I think if we're going to compare ESO, it's better compared to Final Fantasy XIV or WoW than it would be to the Elder Scrolls series necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. All right, so gonna kind of move on here with what actually started that little bit of a rant. So I'm seeing, I personally do a lot of different, like when I'm not doing you know when I'm not doing something where I can be playing a game or just sitting or whatever. Um, I do read, a pretty decent amount.
Oh yeah, you're always reading some article or another. It's kind of exhausting sometimes.
Yeah, and one of the things in the gaming industry that's or in gaming industry news, I guess, that is a hot topic right now is the Elder Scrolls 6. When's it coming? Is it coming soon? What's it going to be about? Or I guess when I say what's it going to be about, like where's it going to take place at? Because all these different games, like I had said earlier, they are like territory centric, right? So you have Skyrim, like it all takes place in Skyrim. Morrowind all took place in Morrowind.
Technically Vardenfell, I think it's technically Vardenfell, but it's part of the Morrowind area,
Right.
and it takes place in its own location. That's what's important to the series. Like Oblivion takes place in Cyrodiil, but 90% of the game is Cyrodiil, but the whole point is the Oblivion gates. Like they're built around a concept, and
Right, right. So one of the big, or one of the more popular, I guess is a good way to say it. One of the more popular speculations right now is that the Elder Scrolls 6, the sixth installment, is going to be in like Hammerfell, um, High Rock, maybe. There's, do you have any predictions for what you might think, where it's going to take place? What part of the lore? I guess where in the world do you maybe think it's going to take place, and or any other predictions around it?
well, I mean, the thing is that the Hammerfell region has already been explored in Daggerfall. But I think that it would be nice to have that place revisited because Daggerfall is a 2D kind of. It's not exactly 2D. It's 3D, but it's 2D walls and stuff like that. It's different. It's a whole different style entirely. I would hope that they would go back there eventually. I would hope for Hammerfell, I think. And the only reason I say that is I would probably want to deal with some of the deserty areas up top. Or maybe, I would kind of like to see Orsinium explored. I know it fell. Orsinium has fallen many times, as it always has, and always probably will in the lore, because they don't really know where to write orcs from here on out, I don't think. At first they were monsters, and now they're people, and yeah, I don't know where they're going to go with that. So they're probably going to stay away from them. And when it comes to where I would want it to be, I think Valen would. The Bosmer homeland. I think that would be a beautiful architecturally, just treetops and everything else. And if anything else, if I had to say my want, it would be Elsewhere. I think the Khajiit people don't get enough of when they're in the games, because I mean there's like 400 and something variations of every type of Khajiit. It's we got saber cats that are fully conscious. Like that's an interesting concept, and I would like to see that visited. And then in Elder Scrolls Online, when they visited, it was beautiful. I mean, honestly, groundbreakingly beautiful to me. I love the whole zone, both of them, northern and southern Elsewhere. I think they're just stunning looking. But systems wise, I'm a little concerned after what we saw in Skyrim. But I think the only concern I have is that we're gonna become some legendary, guy again. We're not gonna be the champion of Cyrodiil or Nerevar, where Nerevar is a kind of a concept that's its own. It's not a set in stone concept. I mean, we know who he was before, but it's an incarnate, so is it the same? You know what I mean? You can kind of go around that. And then we got champion of Cyrodiil. He was a guy. That's what it came down, or a chick. You know what I mean? He was just some person. He was a person who did something. He was there. He was the guy who made sure that the world didn't fall apart, while Martin Septim actually did all the work. Martin Septim and the Blades, they were the more important people to the franchise than you were. But that's okay because you were what helped facilitate it. So I think I would like to see something like that again, where it's mid or low fantasy again. But I think I'm afraid that they're going to go ahead and, go ahead with the Dragonborn route again. Zarek Zahakaran was a channel I watched a while back, and I don't watch him as much anymore, but he had a video, and I'm not quite sure exactly what he was or what the whole point of it was, but he was talking about Elder Scrolls 6 when it first was talked about at E3, and they were talking about Valenwood being in it, and he was so the Bosmer people have a thing where they can turn into like an animal. In case of the forest ever being overrun, they can eventually turn into an animal shape, like a bear or whatever. I don't exactly know what it is, but they turn on to this wild shape, and they can't revert it. Right? They stay like that forever, and it's a last ditch effort to save the forests and stuff like that. And he made a joke that you're gonna become the legendary shapeshifter guy who can change between them and stay like that forever and come out of it whenever you want. And I was laughing my ass off with it because I'm like, I know that they're gonna do something like that. I feel it. I feel like they're gonna make some choice where you are the legendary hero of all time. You're fucking Link or something. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not what the Elder Scrolls should be about. I don't think. I think it should be more about the adventure than the character, like being something powerful. Shouting was an interesting concept in Skyrim. I think it fell short, because I think I would prefer to have more spell effects than more shouts. I think that's why have a system when you can fix the system you already have. Elder Scrolls 6 I have high hopes for. I hope it's in some kind of Redguard territory or Breton territory. Those are my two favorite races out of the whole franchise. I think they are fantastically written, and I want to see them revisited in a very, very big scale, because Breton's whole philosophy and worldview is like, find a hill, become a king. You find a hill and you can make a castle, and if you have the resources, you can become a king or a lord of your area. And that's such a beautiful concept on its own. And then you have the sword singers on the Red Guards, who are just these massive, warriors who are ready to, barricade in and defend their walls and become these, men of honor on any cause, any necessary cause. They can become, a wall to come through. And I think it's I want to see that. I want to see that revisited, and I think Red Guards definitely deserve to have their own place in a world view, because they're not seen as much as I think I'd like to see them. Bretons are always in the Mages Guild, but I think Red Guards definitely get left out a lot, and they're very interesting peoples, and I think it's an interesting concept behind them. I like I said, I have my qualms and I have my worries about the franchise going forward, but I would still very much welcome a new game with new systems, and whatever it turns out to be, I'm going to buy it, and either it'll be a Skyrim situation where I sit down and mod every system out of it and play it because I want to enjoy the story, not the rest of the systems, or it'll be a game like Oblivion where I just play the game. I always play the game first before modding it, but I don't want to have to mod another game. You know, realistically, I don't want to have to. It just feels like a lot to ask of a player and a fan base to fix your games for you, or not even fix, but change. You know, a lot of people in the community feel like they need to change some of it because it's not what they are used to. And I know that I would rather have a game that is standing on its own 2 feet again.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that point, or any of those points actually. Really, um,
So
I would like to get back to a situation where I know a lot. I understand a lot of people probably don't agree with this point. The difficulty is part of what makes the gameplay. The planning and I mean, even not on such a scale, but even earlier games had it. They had you have to manage this kind of characteristic about them, and like I played Skyrim for a very short period. Like I did not get very far into the game, and I was like, this is not what I expected out of this. This is not what I came to this franchise for. I'm not playing this game, um, which sucks. That quite frankly sucks. Like I bought the game, I wanted to play the game, I wanted to see the story play out, and I just couldn't. I couldn't because it was too far different from what the earlier games in that same series had shown me the Elder Scrolls to be. So I just couldn't bring myself to play it.
yeah, before we end this whole session, though, I want to bring something up. This channel has been growing quite a lot, not due to just me, but you as well. And a lot of people who come here have seen your videos of you playing Call of Duty Mobile, and I'm not gonna call you out for only getting 1 kill, but what I'm gonna say is I heard you say something about Spy the other day, and I just wanted to put the question to you, interviewer Jack. What do you got to say about Spy here?
That he's got his own plenty of videos.
Hold on. Are we sure about that? Listen, I think we can do with a couple more Morrowind and Oblivion videos. Are you sure?
I'll back a Morrowind video. Yeah. So, excuse me. I think we've covered the points. It really bothered me seeing that over and over again in the articles. I would click into them and see that like the general consensus, and maybe this isn't true. It's I understand it's entirely possible. It's not the general consensus. Um, that people think honestly that Skyrim is the best installment out of the whole series, and it didn't bring anything unique, and that's.
It really felt like, to use another strategy quote, because I always talk about his videos, to use it, he said, the game requires a scalpel to fix some of the issues, but Skyrim and the rest of the games, like, what it feels like is they take a hatchet or an axe and cut it in half when all they needed to do was make an incision and fix it.
Absolutely. And it's, you was talking about the Call of Duty videos. I mentioned this in one of them. I think the more recent one. I understand game development. It was at one point it was the career path I was going to go down. I get it. There's a lot going on with game development. There's a lot going on with testing the game, getting it stable enough, where it can be played and getting it out. The whole development production process, getting it out, being timely about it so people don't forget, or the hype dies down or whatever it is. But like that is a really good way to say it. Like, come on, please just fix an issue. You don't have to take it completely out. It's not a thing. Like,
If they just met us halfway, you know what I mean? I understand that you're never going to have a one-to-one translation, as we've always said, but I feel like some of the game design could just be altered or added to, and it wouldn't necessarily make the game unstable or unbalanced. But I think that's not something we should be striving for. Is something with complete balance anyway. The way you interact with the world and the way the world interacts with you is never going to be equal on the same ground as if you're a warrior or if you're a mage. And then we're not asking for full balance, I don't think. I think what we're always asking for is just meet us halfway, and we'll accept the limitations, but we don't want to accept more limitation than freedom.
yes, yes, absolutely. I do believe that's one of the points I think I was trying to make was it's just the earlier games that I came in contact with anyway. They were very much about choice, and the most recent installment just didn't have that. Skyrim, it just didn't. It just didn't. It wasn't enjoyable. Not in the same way that the rest of the Elder Scrolls were. So, um, looking forward to Elder Scrolls 6. Can't wait till it gets here. You know, it is what it is whenever it comes out, but
It's going to take a while. I'm pretty sure it's going to take at least a couple more years at max. I mean, or minimum. I mean, like, I don't think we can be expecting Elder Scrolls 6 to come out anytime soon. But that's okay. I think a rush game is always forever bad. And I know that's a quote that people have used before. A rush game is always bad, but a good game is kind of, a game that is delayed is eventually good. And I'm okay with them taking their time, but I would just rather them look back at Morrowind and Oblivion a bit more than their most recent installment, I think.
absolutely. All right, everybody. Well, that's going to be it for today. I hope y'all enjoyed it. If you did, smash that like button, share the video, and don't don't forget to subscribe. Um, Doing these things helps the community that we're trying to build here continue to grow. So I'm going to pose this question: where do you all think, or what's your prediction for the Elder Scrolls 6? Is it gonna Are you on board with the Hammerfell and the High Rock and all that, or is there some other place you would like to see? Let us know the answer to that question in the comments down below. And as always, thanks for watching. If you stuck around this long, we are eternally grateful. We know you didn't have to, and we will see you in the next video.